Welcome to Bass University Live. I hope you're enjoying your angler's coffee. I am. Good morning, Rich. It's springtime around here, man. Fishing's getting rocking and rolling.
It sure is, Pete. We weren't able to go fishing at all this weekend due to some unfortunate circumstances. Both of our events on the home pond got canceled this past weekend, and that's a discussion maybe for another show. But we don't want to ruffle too many feathers. But we weren't able to go fishing this past weekend, Pete. But yes, it's all happening. If you can tell by my voice, my nose, I got a combination of allergies and all kinds of other stuff going on. And I know that when my allergies are firing, so are the bass. It's all connected.
Yep, that's right. It's finally hit up here. I know they've been, people in different parts of the country are, and some of them in deep south are already through the spawn, and we're pre-spawn, and we're excited to have Kyle Patrick on with us, Bass University instructor, and just dropped his pre-spawn largemouth strategies on Bass University TV. So we want to invite you guys to go check that out because he's gives some great tips and details on how to get those fish to go. We had some tough sledding, like you said, we had this time of year, we always get the bad wind. We get the rains, April showers bring May flowers kind of thing. And it's going on and it gets hot, gets cold. We did, although our we had a tournament on the bay that Jake and I were scheduled to fish with you, Rich, and that was canceled. But Jake had his youth derby going on, and he struggled mightily. It's like this sport can be humbling, and that was a tough derby that we fished in 43-degree water temperatures. So it was like 60 degrees a week ago. Now it's down to 43 degrees.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Yeah, that's
springtime in the Northeast.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Northeast is right. So that was going on, and we had a great tournament. Shout out to Kyle Welcher on the elites for getting a century belt and absolutely blasting them with what was like 119 pounds, I think.
Yeah, 117, I think.
45-pound winning margin. Just didn't have to fish the last day, just crazy stuff. And shout out to our own Justin Harant for picking Kyle Welcher to win that tournament on fantasy fishing.
That's a big pick.
JH, we're going to dive into fantasy. He's firmly in the lead in the points. I picked the second place guy, Brandon Lester. So I got a nice little pick there, but I think Justin's well out in front in our little fantasy fishing league. Jocelyn had some great picks, but she forgot she didn't pick Bucket E. All her picks made the cut, and she came up a little short. So I guess she just technical difficulties.
Yeah. I experienced the same, Pete. My picks got stuck out in the airwaves, but if they would have went through, you guys were in trouble because I had them all. Top 6.
That's right.
Had them all.
You had top 6? Come on.
Oh, yeah. I had perfect 1 through 6. I picked them all. So, just you guys are lucky. My picks got held up in the flux capacitor and we weren't able to get them out. But next week, I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
I don't know, man. This sounds like a story, Justin. I don't know. I don't know if I'm buying into this perfect score for you.
You know what? Shout out to Jeff Olson, and I'm gonna go ahead and just throw him. I'm gonna blame him for not allowing me to get my picks in. We were taking care of some other business, souping up the Greg Hackney seminar, and we missed it. But I'm just kidding. Yeah, well, congrats to you guys. I forgot to get my picks in, and but well done, JH, on picking yet another winner. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So that's what's going on at Bass U. Guys, get signed up now. We've got a great promotion going on right now with a 6-month subscription, and you get a Bass U hat, Bass U face shield. Go check it out. Get signed up. A lot of people are signing up, and I want to give a shout out to a gentleman that I met at Pasquotank Lake who went out of his way to come up and thank me for Bass University and how much it has helped him in his fishing. And I really appreciate that. I love that when you guys tell us that. It's very rewarding to hear about how it's helping you, all the hard work we put in here to bring these great anglers together and teaching these amazing lessons that really in a way that you can only find at Bass University. It's just very rewarding. So thank you for that. Thank you for using the program. And without any further ado, I want to thank this guy. This young angler is in his sophomore season on the Bassmaster Elite and scored yet another top 10 performance. Another big performance. Just seems to be taking this on with ease, just competing with the best in the world like you've been doing for 20 years. But you haven't. It's great to have you with us, Kyle. How you doing?
Hey, awesome to be here again, guys. You guys are the best, and like I always say, I watched Bass U since I was probably 10 years old. So I know a lot more people have I think a lot of people, more than you guys know, watch it and learn from it, and end up maybe not fishing the Elite Series, but fishing for the rest of their lives and learning a bunch. So it's awesome to be a part of it.
Man, well, it's great to have you be part of it. And we just released, you heard, we filmed it a little while. Well, we filmed it last pre-spawn, and we just released your pre-spawn bass fishing seminar this week. Timely, we wanted to hit it right in time for the upcoming pre-spawn that we're all going to be facing. But you're already one of our more popular speakers, so we appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it. Sorry, I got some. I'm getting my boat worked on from the beating that it's taken the last couple of events. No, yeah, it's really fun to teach and learn and see people ask questions and how do I turn the lights on in here? I'm sorry, guys.
That's all right, man. We appreciate you, and I know you might as well jump into that. You are getting your boat. It's under construction. The last 2 tournaments have been really abusive for boating, but this last one, man, oh man, were you one of the guys going across the Sound, making one of those giant runs?
I made what I would say for that place is a medium run.
Okay.
Because so I ran out of the Sound, left instead of right, like the Chowan or whatever is to the right when you get out of that Sound. I went left, so it wasn't as crazy. But I mean, to the point of the Sound is like 25 miles. So I mean, when it's blowing off the ocean at 15 miles an hour, you think, okay, 15 miles an hour isn't that bad. But I mean, the Horn of Africa is the next point of land out that way. So like 15 miles an hour is getting it on that place,
I can imagine. And I've never been to that body where, of course, the Chesapeake's right around the corner.
Right.
And when the wind blows and on a tidal body of water, I mean, the waves get just very, very difficult to manage.
Oh my gosh, it is. And like, it's one of those things that you really have to commit to, Pete. Like, it's one of those daunting things that I think, and it's funny, actually, it probably is what helped Kyle Welcher win, but we'll get into that. It's one of those things, like, if you're not fully committed to your area and you're making a run in waves like that, it's a mentality. Like, you're not going to get through it. But I knew that I was committed 100%. That's all I had. And I was going to make the run. So that's sort of what you need on fisheries like that. Like even Potomac's a great example too. Like, when the wind picks up there and it's going against the tide and it gets big, I mean, and you're running down to whatever that creek is all the way down there. One of those creeks. Yeah, Potomac, exactly. Like you just have to know that like when I get there, I'm gonna catch them and I'm going. Because it's definitely scary. Like there were moments where I was scared running in some of the stuff out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know like Jacob Fouts, like I checked on 2 people in this tournament. One, there was a Nitra sitting out in the middle. I don't know what those balloons are, but
congratulating you for making the long boat ride.
That's awesome.
And I was coming in and I just see a Nitro floating out in the middle, and I'm like, I better stop and see what's up. And Fouts had made such a long run that he ran out of gas, and his trolling motor was a little bit like apart. Like I could tell that he went through the ringer. And then also I stopped and I checked in on Jamie Hartman. Like it was, if you were making that run, that's a risk, but I paid off for a lot of people too.
Yeah, well, it did. And it is scary. I mean, it's funny because, some people don't get fearful of that water. Others really, really do. And, and that's it, man, it tugs at you mentally. When you're knee deep in it, you're hitting those waves so hard, and you're
100%.
looking at your speedometer and you're doing 10 to 15 miles an hour. And I mean, the demons got to creep in and say, man, do I really want to go through with this thing?
Oh, look, I promise you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out a good camera angle so I don't have to hold the phone. But look, like 100%. That's why I said you have to be committed, or else, like you said, those demons start creeping in. You're like, man, maybe I turn around and try to fish local. But what was good for me, and part of the reason I top 10 was because like that's all I knew, that there was one section of that river that actually less than a section. I had one little canal, and I was like, they're in there. There's bucks in there. I caught a 9 and a 7 in practice in there by accident. Like it's just right in the middle of the canal. And I was like, all right, if there's big ones there and there's bucks, like there's got to be something going on in this canal and outside of this canal. And now I didn't have time because I found it on day 3. I didn't have time to kind of explore outside of the canal as much, but I was like, I just know that they're in this general region, like maybe a 1,000-yard stretch, and then the canal was in the middle of it. So I was just fully committed, and like you said, you have to be in order to make runs in super rough water like that.
Yeah, it's like we do up on the Great Lakes, right? You're like, I'm going to the lake. I don't care. That's where it's going to be won. I'm not stopping in the river. You just got to go for it. One time I turned around, and it was weird because it just reminds me, I was in North Carolina in the Neuse and Trent rivers, which I think is just south of where you guys were at. And I was running through the bay. I had to run through the bay. It was about a 25 mile. It was blowing, smashing white caps, 4 or 5 foot, pounding every single wave. And then my motor started buzzing. Like one of my alarms started going off. And I came down.
You were just like,
I'm like, can I keep going? But here was the deal breaker. I came off pad. I'm trying to figure out what alarm is happening to me right now. And a school, I guess it was a school of porpoises started swimming around my boat.
Whoa.
And I'm like, that's it. I'm turning around. That's the sign.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's the kind of water that you guys were fishing in too.
Oh, and yeah, 100% we were. That place. Sorry, that place gets out of control, and I'm just happy. Like, if you would have told me I would have had a top 10 out of that place, I would have said, sign me up. I'm ready. Because when a place is that vast, I mean, the amount of fishable water, I don't think people really understand the sheer amount of fishable water that is the Albemarle Sound. Like, or someone corrected me in one of my YouTube videos I just recently posted. I did I'm starting this new YouTube thing in between my actual like tournament videos where it's just me kind of talking about how I broke down the water, talking about, you know, how the guy won, and also just like, you know, some of the stuff that I basically unfiltered Kyle Patrick. And so it'll be interesting, and people are liking it so far, but someone said like, don't pronounce it. It's album. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but
Albemarle.
Albemarle. Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, like they don't understand the sheer amount of water that we were able to fish. Like I ran in practice on day 2. I ran from, it would have been probably a 120-mile run or 130-mile run. I ran into Virginia. I bought a Virginia fishing license and ran all the way basically to, I was right behind, you know, like the Outer Banks, like Virginia Beach right there. Like, or not Virginia Beach. It was some popular beach. Like right behind it, there was all kinds of milfoil. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, but it was the cold front kind of messed it up, I think. But like, and then you go right out of the ramp and you can go, I mean, basically you could go out to the ocean. I mean, it is immense. That body of water is so big, and you don't really realize it because people look at a map and they're like, okay, that creek, this creek, that creek. It doesn't put in perspective how big it is until you put your boat in there and you're like, okay, just this river that we're launching in, the Pasquotank River, this river could be a tournament in itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
Well, you're like, I mean, we've talked to you a lot about this. You don't do a lot of pre-fishing.
I didn't pre-fish. No.
How in the world you have 2.5 days to break down 1 million acres on this body of water, and you did it against the best in the world and shined? Like, what is your process? How did you even begin to manage this massive body of water?
Yeah, I mean, look, the result always looks a lot better than the practice, right? So like, first things first is people, like, it's hard to explain to people until they maybe get in the boat with me, because a lot of it is kind of just my gut and like, okay, I like Google Earth is, without Google Earth, it wouldn't be even remotely possible. So like, if Google Earth wants to sponsor me, let me know, because that thing is the real deal. Like I go on Google Earth, and a lot of times, day 1 of practice, regardless of the lake we're going out of, I put in at the ramp we're taking out of. I want to see, okay, this is where the ramp is. I want to make some tracks. I want to check around the ramp. I want to fish as you know, within 20 or within 10 to 15 miles of the ramp to get a sense of, all right, is it really good by the ramp? Do I not have to trailer and make long runs? So that's step 1. And if I feel like, you know, this isn't, I'm not going to expand on this that much more, that's when I kind of get home and I look like, what do I want to find on a tidal fishery? My big thing, clear water. I really like clear water. I did it at, and I know I can't, actually, I guess it's public. So the Chesapeake Bay, for example, I know there's an open there. I fished very clear water in the back of this area and in that open, and it was tough. And I think the salinity content was higher in the main sound, like up on the flats and stuff. So I just said, I want to find clear water that's less affected by tide. So I went on Google Earth and I tried to find areas like that. This time I knew that the black water, like not the dingy water, but the black water was going to be a deal. So you go on Google Earth and you figure out, okay, where's the black water? So then I broke it down, and there was maybe 4 or 5 areas with black water that weren't in the Pasquotank, because the Pasquotank was pretty clean water. And I just ran 2 or 3 of those sections, day 1 and day 2. And that's where I found my area. I mean, it sounds easier than it is, but like, you just have to go with what you're comfortable with. Like if you like, you know, fishing grass, well, then you might have wanted to run into Virginia because there was a lot of milfoil down there, or hydrilla, or whatever it was. And I think that's the biggest thing people don't do a lot, is they try to do what they think is right, not what they know they want to do, or they're thinking about people. And that's a whole nother topic. That's where, you know, this information thing comes from. Like people want to know, like, what's the right thing to do here? Like what, and that's where I think people get caught up all the time. There's not necessarily a right thing to do. I mean, Brandon Lester was throwing a shaky head on a bridge. Like Welcher was live scoping stumps in 2 foot of water. Like, I was throwing a jig and a stick bait from X Zone. Like, there's so many different things that you can do to do really well in tournaments. So like, people try to rely on other people and like what has happened in the past and what other people think is the right thing to do. And I just go off of like what I want to do and what I think's right. And it makes it easier. You're not mentally thinking, oh, I should be doing this or doing that.
Yeah, you can get so caught up in that. It's doc talk in essence, and you're fishing to your strengths, and you have it's a great strategy, right? It's been consistent for you to find that clear water on tide. It eliminated, man, 90% of that fishery for you.
Yep,
and
100%.
Simplified it down to something that you could deal with, and that really helped you. You made me think of Tyler Williams, who also, he fishes to his strength. He just looks for that jig bite wherever he can get it.
Yeah, I know. And like, that's the thing. It's just being, I think a lot, and this, I'm just going to say it. I think there's a lot of fishermen out there, and I've talked to people about this. I think there's a lot of fishermen out there that lack the confidence in themselves. So they need to get validation from other sources. And I think that's where people get spun out. People get confused because they're not relying on like that instinct, that internal instinct, because I'm going to fish a fishery way different than you are, Pete. And like, guess what? You might win. I might win. It's totally, we're going to break it down totally different, but we might both top 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people need to realize there's a whole lot of ways to catch fish. And we've learned that the past 5 years is throwing dice, throwing a jig. There's so many different ways. And there will continue to be so many new ways to catch bass and so many new patterns throughout the next 10 years, I think, even though it doesn't seem like there will be now.
Yeah. And fishing to your strengths has been something that has been effective throughout the course of this sport. And you've seen guys do it. And I know my own fishing, I recognize that I do better when I'm on a flipping bite. If I can find that bite, then I'm likely going to do well in the tournament. So it changed me, like you're talking about. Instead of hunting the dominant pattern or what guys think is going to happen, I hunt what I'm really good at. And that has helped me have a lot of success. And I think you're dialing into that for yourself and at the top level and just crushing it with a great fish.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool.
And you did it here on a jig. Were you were these fish spawning? Were they pre-spawn fish? How were you getting them?
So it's cool. There was in my area, so there was northern strain and F1s.
Really?
So like I was catching, so that fish that wrapped me up on, I think Bassmaster has it on their Instagram. It was on live. Like I wrapped me up. That was a northern strain bass that I think was either guarding fry, but it might have also been on a bed. But all the Florida strain fish I caught, like day 1, I caught a 7-pounder. That was a post-spawn bass.
Really?
And my 9 and a 7, in practice, those were post-spawn as well. Like skinny as a rail, giant mouths, not anywhere in like totally not near a bed or trying to get on a bed, post-spawn. But then I also caught pre-spawn. And it was weird, like the northern strain versus the southern strain in the same area. It was very interesting to see what stage they were in. Like I think a lot of the Florida strain were post-spawn. And a lot of the northern strain were spawning in my area. But I also could be wrong. It's hard to tell at times. But so, like I said, that canal, that's what sort of was my main thing. I knew there was a lot of bucks in there. I knew I could catch like 9 to 10, maybe 11 pounds. And then what I figured out was there was pre-spawn or spawn and post-spawn fish on the stumps outside of those canals. So I fished stumps like a pretty good amount of the 4 days, and also like bigger standing timber in the back of that in the back of that area I was in. And I just basically, and then at the end of every day with the last hour or two left, because what was funny is the run in the morning was like 45, 50 minutes for me. But then the wind would always pick up in the afternoon. And when you're in the back of an area like that, you don't know what that
Yeah.
sound looks like. So I always left with at least 2 hours, at least 2 hours to get back. Because, I mean, at one of the times I ran out, there was one little section that I had to go 25 miles an hour. But then when I came around the point, I was able to go faster. And I'm like, dang, like I just left my area and, I've got a ton of time by the ramp, maybe like an hour and 20 minutes or an hour. And I would swim a jig. Or I'd flip it. I was throwing a flipping jig with an X Zone. They have a new color out that I wanted them to come out with. It's called Pumpkin Plum Party. And I had that on the back of it. And I would flip it up really shallow and then kind of swim it out. And I caught a 5 on day 2 in the last like 30 minutes doing that. And that kind of clued me in that, hey, maybe I should just come back into this one section by takeoff with an hour left every day just to try to keep doing it. And it worked out day 3 and 4. I caught one good one throwing that jig. And so that was just a cool like last hour and a half deal. But most of my fish came on that stick bait. The X Zone has like a green pumpkin, blue flake. It's my favorite color in any baits. I don't care who makes it. Green pumpkin, blue flake. That was mostly, they wanted it super weightless and I would twitch it and worked out for like filling a good limit.
Were you blind fishing or were you able to scope those fish?
A little bit of both. I think so. When I would get on the stumps that were by themselves, like in the middle of a flat, obviously I would use scope to line up the cast, but you really weren't scoping the fish. You were just, okay, this, like I would use my Mega 360 and be like, all right, there's a stump over there. And I would turn my boat, I would put my Raptors down and I would, point the forward facing at the stump and just know that, okay, that cast is landing in the right spot. But the live scope came in more, the forward facing sonar was more important for just not hitting your trolling motor on all the debris. So it really wasn't even, I bet I used it more for not hitting my trolling motor and breaking it than I did actually catching fish on it.
Yeah.
I was just using it like, oh, there's a stump right in front of me and then there's some stuff there. Let me just throw my stick bait over there.
Yeah.
And I would, so that was a cool, people don't realize like forward facing sonar comes in handy for a lot more things other than just, live scoping suspended bass like everyone thinks you do with it.
Yep. That's handy for that. I want to, Justin Franco had an interesting question because you're from the north. You're Ontario. You've been on Ontario a bunch and Erie. What's worse, when the wind blows down there at that body of water, or when the wind blows up on the lakes?
Yeah, like what as far as baits?
No, as far as
what's worse?
What's harder to navigate, the Great Lakes in the wind or down there?
I gotta tell you, the Great Lakes in the wind they're bad, but the waves are like you can ride them up and down most of the time. They're big rollers, and it's crazy at times, but they're not as tight, and tide isn't a factor as much. And that tide, when the tide's rolling and the waves are really tight and compact together, and there's 3-footers, that's way harder on your equipment and like getting around than the Great Lakes is by a landslide. Now, of course, if it's blowing 45 on the Great Lakes and the waves are 7-footers, like that's a different story. But I think that the sound, like the Albemarle Sound, the James River, Potomac, that's some of the most brutal conditions. Not saying it's the biggest, but it's the worst conditions to drive a boat in.
It's hard on your body too, and I've noticed like when you get bodies of water like you mentioned, or like the Chesapeake Bay, that like overall they're generally speaking a pretty shallow body of water. But when those waves get big and you're also dealing with shallow water, there's something to it of where it hits different. Like the waves hit harder, they jerk you side to side harder. There's just like there's less give below you because it's nothing but ground below you.
Yeah.
And
That's the other thing. I mean, the deepest section of that river that I ran was maybe, or that sound was maybe like 10, 15 feet. And so
Right.
like the waves stack and like they crash because like, if you think about it, it's like, you know, you go to a beach and the waves are crashing, like, but they're not crashing out way offshore. That's because it's deep out there. They don't have that momentum or that, you know, bottom to like kind of finish their to crash. So yeah, I think the great, like, I'd rather run out to Ontario in, you know, 5 foot waves than I would run through that Albemarle or what, I don't even know, whatever the name is. That
We're gonna do a
those
compilation.
titles, yeah, those tidal sounds in like 3-footers.
Yeah.
We can just call it the sound for the purposes of this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's a great question. But what when you're talking about the F1s versus the Northern strain,
Yeah.
it's easy to tell the difference. Like, can you just easily hold them in your hand and say, "Oh, that's one, that's the other"?
Not really, but like the big ones, you can tell because of the like. I caught I caught two like 6.5, 6.75, close to, it was like 680 and like a 670. Both were the same size. One of them, what is going on? both both are the same size weight wise, but the Florida strain one had a mouth of a 12 and was way longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the Northern strain one was like a Cayuga Lake, like stocky, big son of a gun. And so that's obvious. But the smaller ones are a little bit trickier to tell the difference. You know, but I know that for a fact I weighed 2 over 6. One was a Northern strain, one was a Southern strain, or an F1.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
That's interesting that the F1s went ahead and did their thing first, like got done with spawning, or it seems like you caught more post spawners than what you saw. And I trust your judgment.
No, yeah, and I'm not saying that's a fact.
Right.
I'm 99% sure because I mean, dude, I'm telling you, this fish, I'll post the video up. This actually it is up. It's up on my YouTube right now in that new video of me in the car. Like halfway through, you could see the full catch. His mouth was like a 12-pounder. I thought when it jumped, I was like, dude, that's like a 10 or 11-pounder. And then I weighed it, and it was only like just shy of 7. And I'm like, gosh, man, that's crazy. And then the 6, I was like, oh, that's like a 4.5, and it was like 6.6, and I was like, oh my god, because I was used to like the day prior, I caught more F1s, so I was like, oh, that's and then I got it in the boat, and I'm like, that's actually bigger than I thought.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting though, because like, by genetics, they are different fish. Like genetically, they are different, and like Pete, we see it at home all the time. Like we'll have fish spawning from the 3rd week of April until the 1st week of July. Like they will spawn a little bit for a couple weeks and then back off and then spawn a little bit more and then back off, spawn a little bit again. And they're all we're dealing with all northern strains. We don't have any F1s, but it's just, that's crazy how like, it's like, the F1s, it seems like they decide they're going to do it. They go ahead and do it all the way. They just get it over with. Where the Northerns are like, we might go up for a little bit and then slide back out. It's almost like they're predetermined to know like that the conditions are going to change or something.
But that's what's weird is I feel like the F1s would be more apt to be changed by conditions. So I don't know. I think, but what I will say is there was a full moon and it was like 80 degrees for like a week straight prior to our event where it was a giant cold snap. So I think maybe it triggered some of those F1s to start spawning.
Yeah.
And maybe the Northerns were a little behind. I'm not sure. But what I think, like F1, like Florida strain bass, they spawn like more than once, right? Like like there are waves and waves. Northern strain, when they spawn, the whole lake is going down, except they spawn once. Like it's in like Cayuga, like or any of those lakes. Like it's like this deeper section of the lake might have fish that are a little later, but it's not like, oh, there's going to be another wave that pulls in. Like once that wave's done, it's done.
Yep. Well, it's interesting, and it's really cool that they're in the mix down there. I wish we could get those up here in the north. Some of those F1s, but I think Delaware is the furthest south that I know where there are some F1s that are thriving. But you caught some big ones. You needed to in this Derby, and we were talking for a second before we went live, and it's unbelievable how many people, and shout out to Kyle Welcher. He just somehow got in the front of that curve on that movement that was happening in that area. But you and a lot of guys fished through there, and it just wasn't happening yet during practice.
Yeah, no, I fished through there for the first 2 or 3 hours of day one of practice. And that's just how tournament fishing is. Like, I mean, and that's but like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? Go back through that area and waste time on such a big fishery, knowing that I only caught 2 or 3 dinks in that area? So like, that's where timing is everything in a tournament. And, a lot of it is just, I'm not going to say getting lucky, but you have to definitely time it right. And a little luck plays a factor in getting to an area and saying, okay, like they're here now, or hey, there's not any fish here. I can't afford to just keep fishing where I don't think there's any more fish. And so Kyle Welcher just timed it perfectly and did an excellent job. And he is impressive because I think he's a very intelligent person, and he was able to slow down and really pick apart that area, and I mean just blow that tournament out of the water like crazy.
Man, the sport's never seen a dominant win like that. It was 45 pounds. I mean, that's never happened before. That'll probably never ever happen again. You know? I mean, the fields are too tough, but he was, and it kind of makes sense. Like, and this is maybe one of those times a year where, okay, there are a buck or two that I caught there at practice. This is possibly, if the bucks have already taken it and they're there, this is maybe a place where the spawn may be developing, may be advancing, so this is the time of the year where that can happen,
and that's so hard to do. As a tournament angler, is be like, oh, there's a bunch of bucks there, let me just go back there in the tournament, you know what I mean? Like, and I think John Cox and like a few other guys are really good at that, just being like, you know what, I'm doing it, whatever. But for me, I have a hard time going to an area where I really didn't catch any size, or there wasn't really. Now, it's one thing if there's bucks littered everywhere and there's a full moon and it's getting on a warm trend, but we were on a cold trend. We were on a cold. So I was like, I can't do it, But yeah, and it's amazing how it happens. I mean, he had that one big one, he said, up there, and that's sometimes all it takes is one big one on a bed, and you're like, I'm gonna go back and catch that one, and then maybe I'll spend 20 minutes just looking around, and that 20 minutes, that decision, it wins you the whole tournament.
It's crazy, and that was, because that didn't happen during practice is what helped Kyle, helped him win, and it helped. See, a lot of guys, everybody went through the area. They got negative feedback, and they eliminated that area. He had the whole thing to himself. So it was, crazy good win for him, and congratulations to him for doing that. And pretty cool. Rare not having to weigh in on the final day.
I know.
I mean,
I know. Dave Mercer's like, you need absolutely nothing.
That's what we want to see from you this year, Kyle.
Yeah, hope so, man. Hey, look, like I always said, I'm if I can just stay consistent, I always have 1 or 2 bad ones every year, and thank God I got one of them out of the way. St. John's screwed me, but I moved up. I moved up from 76th in AOI to 40th in this event.
Wow.
And so huge points for me. Got my one bad one out of the way. Hopefully I only have one bad one this year, but I think for me, if I can just get a top 10 or 2 every year, and be in that, and then have some solid top 20s, 30s. I think at some point the stars will align for me. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I definitely don't go out to a tournament and say I'm going to win this one. It kind of just happens, and I think that's what happened to Kyle Welcher.
It did, and so often it happens that way. You hear that from the guys. I never thought to win this tournament. Sure enough, they wind up in the winner circuit. It's very rare for a winner to say, exactly. "Oh yeah, practice, I figured it out, and I thought for sure I was going to win." It usually occurs during the tournament.
Yeah,
but you got to have your peripheral.
Unless you're Lee Livesey on fork.
Say that again.
I said, unless you're Lee Livesey and you're going to fork during the post spawn. Yeah.
That's true. He's won next year's fork tournament already in his mind.
Exactly.
He knows what's going on. But I wanted to ask you this because I didn't realize that that you had to take a polygraph.
Oh, it's my second, and it's back-to-back elites now.
Is that right?
Yep. And what's funny is, Pete, it's random. They text us. So Bassmaster's done a phenomenal job with polygraphs this year. Now, I think, and I've told Bassmaster this, and I'm not afraid to say it on here, they need to start doing it in the opens, because now we've had 2 or 3 instances in the opens where I think that anglers should have been DQ'd. And I don't want to go into it, but we'll leave it at that. And I told them, because they're doing such a good job in the elites, they text us prior to the event. They say, if you finish 63rd, 43rd, and 22nd, you're taking the random polygraph. And then in the top 10, they select 2, like auto-generate 2 random numbers between 1 and 10, and those 2 people have to take a polygraph. So there's no targeting. There's no one trying to set you up. It's just where you finish. So I happen to finish 10th. I happened to finish 10th, and prior to the day, they said if you finish 7th and 10th, you're taking the random polygraph. And the same happened at Okeechobee. They were like, if you finish 31st and 16th, you're taking the polygraph. So I finished 31st at Okeechobee. I took the polygraph. And both times, Okeechobee, I was scared. I was so scared, and not because I did anything, but because your entire career and reputation rests on one test. And I was like, I'd never taken one. And so I asked a bunch of questions naturally. And I was like, so how does this work? Blah, blah, blah. They walked me through it. I took it, passed. And then this one, man, I walked in there and I was like, hook me up, let it rip. I was like, she was like, do you want me to explain any? I'm like, nope, fire away. And so I can go through it if you want.
Well, I do. I got some questions. Like when do you get notified that you're going to be taking it? Like,
at the end of the weigh-in, when each day at the end of the weigh-in,
okay,
you wherever you finish, right? So I looked at Bass Track and I'm like, oh, I get to take the random polygraph, because I knew that I wasn't going to move up. My fish kind of died, or might not died, but they kind of, I beat my fish up. I caught 12 pounds, and I was like, I'm going to stay in. I'm going to move to 10th from 8th, and I'm going to take the polygraph. But usually it's like if it's close, because Bass Track, there's sandbaggers and all that stuff. So I just wait till the end of the weigh-in. I finished 10th, and I think this time it was 10th place was the 5 o'clock polygraph, and 7th place was like the 6:30 polygraph. So right after weigh-in, I stuffed my face with a bunch of food because I was hungry, and then I drove to the hotel with my boat and truck, pulled in, and took it.
Well, see, in my mind, like outside the room, there's security guards with assault weapons. You walk into you're wearing a hood. You walk in, you got this heat lamp on you.
Yeah.
What is it like? Are you in a?
No. So, do you see the picture I posted?
I didn't. No.
All right. I'm gonna send it to you.
Okay.
And put it up on the screen so people can see. Pete, you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
We can.
I think Justin has the picture. We can probably get it up that way.
Can you get it up? Just so people can understand. Here, Pete, are you doing the
I mean, in
Justin, if you have a picture, throw it up on the screen.
my mind goes dark side. I'm like, I'm terrified of walking in on what a polygraph test.
Rich, I just sent it to you. Can you throw it up on the screen?
Yeah, we'll get it up there. But go ahead and keep explaining
Right,
on what's going on.
Basically, so the first time I took it, I was obviously nervous. There was 2 polygraphers in the room. One was observing, one was giving me the test. There's a camera. There's a camera facing you. And that camera's there because if there needs to be reviews of what you said, because basically the way it works is they ask you the questions prior to being hooked up, and they say, or while you're hooked up, and it's not the official test, but they say, is there anything you want to tell me about any of these questions? And the first one, so at Okeechobee, I had fished down a stretch. And the way it was there was a little wall. And the angle I was coming down this bank, I couldn't see, but on the opposite side of the wall, it said no. It said stay back 50 feet. But I was coming down the stretch like this, and the wall was a way that I couldn't see the sign. So as I'm fishing, and I look up, and David Gaston actually had said to me, "Hey, you saw that sign, right?" And I'm like, "No, what sign?" He's like, "It's 50-foot sign." So I called Lisa, and I went up to her right when I got back to check. And I checked in 5 minutes early so I could go up. I told her, and she was like, "Okay, like, did you weigh a fish, or did you catch a fish off it, whatever?" And I was like, no, I just whatever. So when polygraph said, "Is there anything you need to tell me?" I said, "Yeah." So I talked to Lisa about this, and she said this, because if you have anything in your mind that is going to throw you off when they ask you the questions, you need to get it off you need to tell them, because if you don't tell them, it's going to show in the test that, there's something not right. Yeah. And so you can't see it, but down on the right on my fingers, there's like 3 there's 3 sensors. There's like a blood pressure, a heart rate monitor.
And you got a chest wrap? What's the chest? It looks like
I don't know. There's one on the chest and there's one on the belly. I believe it's for you. No, I believe it's for your. I believe it's for your breathing.
Okay.
So anyway, I told them like that, and they're like, "Okay, great." And so they say, "Besides what you've told me," and then they ask the question, so that what you told them isn't on your mind as like a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go through the questions. They say, "Okay," they get a baseline first of all, Pete. So they say, all right, they give me a sheet and it says 1, 2, 3, and then there's a blank space, and then 4, 5, 6, and they make you write, or 1, 2, 3 blank space 5, 6, 7. They make me write the number 4, and then they say, did you write the number 1? And I have to say no. Did you write the number 2? No. Did you write the number 3? No. And then when they say, did you write the number 4? You have to lie and say no, even though you wrote the number 4. So they get that baseline. There's a couple more baseline questions. And then they ask you, basically the basic rules of the no information, fishing on tournament waters in the 28-day off limits, and then some other questions involving that sort of, it's all centered around that.
Right.
So to me, I mean, I'll say this. If I don't think that I would have to cheat to fail that.
I got you. You think it's that accurate? It's that.
I don't know, but I know that. See, I don't know about polygraphs. I don't know anything, but I just know from my 2 tests that. And I guess I can't say that because I don't know what it's like to hide something. Right? So I don't know how that works.
But from what it sounds like, it's like you have to be pretty egregiously lying about something to.
I think so. I don't know that. I also don't know.
Yeah, right. I mean, like you said at the Okeechobee one, you were freaking out. I mean, different people might get anxious, get real heavy anxiety having to go in to take this test, even though they're straight lining, like they didn't do anything wrong. But like you said, you're like, oh my God, my career's hanging in the balance here.
Yeah,
You know,
like 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 what if that polygraph was just like, I don't like this kid, like.
yeah,
And I'm not saying that they would, but like that's going through my mind because I'm like, what happens if they're just like, yeah, I don't trust him, whatever, and then I fail
yep,
because it's his word versus mine, and then it's published, and then all of a sudden I'm on social media going, look, I don't know why I failed, and no one, and only half of people were going to believe that, and then your career's ruined, basically. Or in my mind, your career's ruined because I, if someone calls me if you even have someone say that he cheated or lied, like there's going to be people that believe that guy, and like your integrity is all you got.
yep, yep,
And I don't ever want to be questioned on that. So that's
yeah,
why I was nervous. But the second one, like I said, I walked in, I was like, let's do this. Like, I'm ready. I know what's coming. I know I didn't do anything wrong. Come on.
yeah. Well, it's what we had talked to Trip Weldon years ago about this, and at that time, what he had indicated was it takes more than a failed polygraph to get a DQ. Like there has to be some other corroborating information to go along with it.
Yeah.
That's still the case. Can you be
I
DQ straight from a polygraph?
I don't know. I don't know, but I know that if you don't pass the polygraph, they'll keep giving you the polygraph until basically you can't take it anymore. And you're just like, okay, I think I did this. So basically, I think 90% of what the polygraph is they keep giving it to you. And if you keep failing, eventually you're just going to say, I guess this is on my mind. And then when you say that, that's what kind of maybe is what,
Right.
okay, well, if you did that and you're saying you did that, that's technically against the rules, you're DQ'd, right? Like, I think that's sort of how it has transpired in the past. I don't know, though, if you can get DQ'd just straight off a polygraph. I was nervous because I was so scared because you're not allowed to
Right.
move. You're not allowed to move. So,
Ooh,
like,
That's
the
rough.
blood
That's hard for
pressure,
you, Kyle.
yeah. So the blood pressure, I'm sitting there and the blood pressure things around it's tight because you got to, like you go to the doctors, you get that wrap and they do the blood pressure.
Yeah.
That thing is tight around your arm the entire time and you're not allowed to move. So
wow.
your arm is completely numb. So I'm just like, oh my God, I need to move and get some blood flow. And then they're asking you these questions and you can just feel your arm like thump, 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 like your whole arm. And
Yeah.
so like the first one, I was like, good God, like this is just painstaking for me. And with all that was on the line and everything. So, but like I said, I think it's a really good thing that Bassmaster's done. It's random. There's no targeting. And I think they need to do it to the opens because if you got guys in the opens that are stretching the rules, going out with guides on lakes, and then they're going to make the elites next year. From Bassmaster's perspective, I'm saying, why do we want more problems up here when we can just deal with them down there and have everyone that makes the elites a straight arrowed, honest guy rather than kind of keep the problem going. And then when they get to the elites, they get a DQ. And then that's a problem for bass. It's a problem for them, like the angler. So I think they need to do this random polygraphs in the opens 100%. I don't see how they can't do it in the opens. They're still fishing for 60 grand, a classic berth, the elites. It's
Right.
just as important, in my opinion.
I agree with you. Do you think what's the temperature on the elites? Are guys out there? I mean, there's been a couple high profile disqualifications for breaking this rule.
Yeah.
Are the polygraphs helping? Do you think it's keeping people honest? Do you think it's doing what it's intended to do?
1,000%. I can't speak on those DQs. I don't know enough, but what I can say is that and I know this for a fact, anglers are calling the tournament director more and saying this happened,
Okay.
and just to check in. Like, for example, I had a guy on a dock at Okeechobee, and he was like, man, I catch big ones under here. And I'm like, hey, man, hate to interrupt you. I can't get any info, and I don't want to be rude, but that's info, and I'm in a tournament, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, all right, I get it, but those pads are really good too. And I'm like, dude, I get it, but
Shut
like, I
up.
can't. I was like, I can't get. So I was so
You must.
paranoid. I called Lisa, and I'm like, Lisa, look, I'm gonna like potentially fish this area in the tournament, and this guy keeps saying it's good to me for like a minute, and I'm trolling motoring down the bank, and I told him 3 times. She's like, no, it's okay, you told him, blah blah blah. But normally guys wouldn't call about that necessarily.
Right.
But I think the polygraphs are keeping everyone on their toes and keeping everyone honest. So I think it's a great thing. I really do.
Is it still mandatory that you got to run a camera in your boat?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, as far as just keeping yourself protected, like that's
huge.
That's such a good way to do it.
But
right
dude,
there.
that's really not. That really wouldn't help necessarily in the polygraph questions. Most of the polygraph questions are centered around like stuff that wouldn't be on GoPro, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, just for like in that instance for you, Kyle, like where the guy was talking to you and you're like, hey, please, I can't get info. Like if that was ever up to be questioned, you'd be like, no, look, here's the footage.
Yeah.
You can hear
Right.
You can hear what I'm saying. You know, it's just.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to do my next YouTube video is going to be talking about in depth the polygraph, how Bassmaster does it, what I think is everything about it, like all honest thoughts. And like, I'll probably dive pretty deep into it and like my thoughts behind it. And I think it's important that people understand that the polygraph it's really not designed to trip you up.
Right.
At all. It's designed to just, you literally are going in there and having a conversation with someone and just saying, look, I didn't get any info. I didn't fish the off limits. I didn't, snag a fish or whatever. Like that, I mean, it's basic. It's basic. Right. It's like I could essentially sit here, and now this isn't the environment to do it in with all these all distractions in here, but like, Pete, I mean, if there was a trained polygraph, someone that could read it, you could sit here and ask me the questions and I would answer them to you. And then they would figure out, if I was being deceitful or not.
Well, I think, the threat of it, if nothing else, is keeping people honest. It's making people, check in with the tournament director. Because I've violated, like you, I've had 1,000 times where I tell people, no, we're not allowed to get information, and they keep talking, and it, they won't stop, and it's a weird interaction because they think you're being rude, they're getting mad at you because you don't listen to them. They think maybe you're an elitist, that doesn't want to get information from a guy on the bank, and that's not it. You're just at it. But they keep
100%.
And like you said, hey, these pads are good, or this rock pile is really good. You can't unhear it, you know. But I'm really glad that you're in. It's encouraging to hear you call Lisa, and she said, "Look, you attempted to stop the dialogue.
Yeah,
you're absolved."
Yep, 100%. And that's what it's designed to do.
Yep. Yeah. Well, good deal, man. I mean, congratulations on passing both polygraphs.
Yeah.
Hey, and I promise you, based on how this season's going, I got 2 or 3 more coming. 2 or 3 more random ones, and I'll be like, okay. And the only thing that's annoying is the time, because when I'm done with it, I was so tired. I was like, I'm gonna go have a few ice cold sodas, if you know what I mean, and on the couch, relax, crack open a cold one, and then I'm like, oh, I have to take a polygraph at 5 for an hour or whatever. Like, I'm like, so that's the annoying part.
It's an hour test. It takes that long?
Well, yeah, because you got to go in and there's like, they explain some things that they're gonna do every time, like explain it.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna hook you up. They're gonna get the baseline. They're gonna um, ask the questions. That takes some time, and then while you're hooked up, still, they're gonna like kind of read through it, see if they need to give you another one. So all that, it's maybe 45 minutes, all like between 35 to an hour.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's sure. I appreciate it. I'm enlightened. I didn't know what that process was like, and I appreciate you sharing all that stuff with us. And I'd like we're gonna wrap it up, but one of the things that you're so good at, and we talked about it already, but man, you're just amazing at limited practice, breaking down a new water, somehow getting yourself in and around the winner circle. What's one piece of advice you give to somebody that wants to learn a new body of water, wants to learn it fast? What's your best advice?
Yeah, I think it's kind of there's a line that you have to run very close to, and that's fishing enough of the water, but also not fishing it too fast. Like my recommendation, like for example, let's take the James River for an example. When you go into that tournament and say you have 3 days of practice, like the way I would do it is I would do three things. I would say I'm going to fish the Chick one day. I'm going to fish the barge pits another, and then I'm going to fish that upper section main river for another. And maybe like if I was going from barge pit to barge pit, I might stop for like 10 minutes, but I don't get too distracted with other things necessarily unless I find that there's a pattern going on. But making sure you take your time and not rushing through areas is one of the biggest things, because the way I look at it, that area might not be the greatest area ever. But if you're taking your time and understanding what's going on in that area, that translates to stepping up the ladder and understanding what's going on in general on that fishery. So a lot of times, like Pasquotank, for example, I fished the river day one, and I caught 2 1.5 pounders on stumps. Tiny fish that didn't even matter. But I was going slow enough that I was like, okay, there are fish on stumps. Like that is something that I need to continue to do. Now, maybe it's a different area, but it's making sure you're going slow enough and you're understanding what's going on in general to then apply it to other areas. So you want to cover water, but you don't want to cover it too quickly that you basically end up, you're fishing all these areas and then you're like, I just fished a whole lot of areas. I didn't get any bites anywhere. Like you need to fish the areas that you like figure are good slowly,
Right.
but not too slowly. You know what I mean? I guess
Makes sense.
yeah, it's sort of like a double-edged sword, because if you fish it too slowly, you're going to run out of time and not be
Right.
able to check enough stuff. But like if you get in an area and you feel good about it, don't lose confidence in the first 15 minutes. Like make sure you're picking it apart, because that translates everywhere.
Keep the trolling motor wet, keep the bait wet.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice, because I'm giving you props for being one of the most talented guys at being able to break down a body of water in a short period of time. You've proven it over and over again with limited practice, and that's impressive, my friend. So
Thank you.
Props to that, and thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being part of Bass U, man. Love the content that you're doing with us, and we're looking forward to doing some more stuff with you. As the spring, to the north part of the country, we'll get out on the water with you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to get you guys up to New York, get some buffalo wings in us, Rich, and go out and smash.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, and best of luck at the next one. I think it's where are you? Are you at Hartwell? Where's the next tournament?
Hartwell.
Okay, that's next week.
Yep. I'm excited for that one. Finally, some clear water, and hopefully it won't be blowing 75 miles an hour.
Bite your tongue. It is spring, and the wind's going to blow. But good luck to you, man. Thanks again. Congrats, and we'll catch up with you real soon, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Kyle Patrick, everybody. That was he's so. I know I keep talking about it, but dude, I am truly impressed and amazed at his ability to break down these waters and get in the winner's circle, Rich. I mean, he makes it sound so easy, but God Almighty, it is not easy.
No, much easier said than done. But kudos to him, and it's a system, it's a strategy that I think we can all learn from, and everybody that's watching this show can learn from. Sometimes our biggest enemy in fishing is just thinking about what's next, what the next area is, what the next place you want to go is, what the next, and you lose sight of what's in front of you. And from the amateur hour corner over here perspective, I think I've mentioned it on the show a couple times before, where I'll, in a practice day and a fun fishing day, I'll put the trolling motor down and I will set a time for myself that I am not allowed to pull that trolling motor up for, and it allows you to just fish everything. And it's amazing what you can uncover. You know what I mean? What you can stumble upon, bites you can unlock. And, it seems like Kyle has a really good strategy for doing that. And picking an area, knowing it sets up well for him, and then spending enough time, but not too much time to get an understanding of what's going on and not miss out on potential bites that fall into your confidence window.
Mm-hmm. And him and Tyler Williams and Trey McKinney, they strike me as guys that are keeping it incredibly simple and focusing in their wheelhouse and fishing to their strengths. And it's really cool to see. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back with some more Bass University Live.
We're off the clock to clock more fish, to fill our live wells and empty our coolers, because there's more to explore. The latest Humminbird fish finders work fast, see clearly, and know all the best spots. They fish even smarter paired with the Minn Kota, and break down the water like never before. If you like your plans loose and lines tight, then it's time to explore. Only with Humminbird. Get right to the fight. New Mega Live 2 forward-facing sonar puts you on more fish with an ultra-clear, rock-solid picture of underwater action. Next-gen clarity, next-level fun. Only with Humminbird.
Right here, AquaView, mandatory equipment in my boat. I say it all the time. The smallmouths hide in the cracks in the rocks, and just saw a little bit of the same kind of rock with the cracks in it. And I realized that I had to put a bait down there. You wouldn't, idle over them and see them on your screen. You had to put a bait down there and suck them out of the rock. So, AquaView, big assist on this one.
And outdoors, Bassmaster Classic champion,
Coffee. The angler's ritual. A reason to leave your cozy covers, even if you aren't headed to the river. We started Angler's Coffee because, well, we love to fish, we love coffee, and we care. Think of it as the rise before the rise.
A challenge. The original Element rods really Cashin's first launch, kind of at a price point level. With that, we got a lot of feedback. And that's what brought about the Element Z2 in its launch. The most affordable American-made rod on the market.
Mother Nature may be tough. I'm tougher. I'll take you where chaos is the cost of entry and where the fish are worth the fight. Because the bigger the question marks, the better the quest.
Welcome back. I'm reading some of the comments, and a lot of love for KP, and that's cool to see. He is one of the shining stars. Wayne Mishu said some of the local guys, one of the local guys down there caught 5 for 50 pounds down in that river system. It's got the big ones, man. Thank goodness, or we got to see a bunch of 30-pound bags, or at least one guy catching 30-pound bags. That was pretty cool. GR8 Smalley angler is talking about guys, and I don't know that Kyle has expertise in that area, but guys with a heart condition or I wonder how they're handled when it comes to doing polygraphs. I don't know the answer, but that's an interesting question. I'm sure the people administering the test have to accommodate for that,
Yeah. Yep.
But the fruit bat, I forgot about that name. But a lot of guys. Boomer, good to have you guys with us. Don LaBelle and John Wilson, good to have everybody hanging out with us at the chat room. Really cool time of year, man. I love this time of year. Tournaments are up and running. Our fishing is up and running. I'm really excited. We got spring break coming up. Jake and I are planning down to Lake Okeechobee next week.
Nice.
And I'm trying to they've lowered the lake even further down there, Rich.
Wow.
They're trying to encourage vegetation growth.
Yep.
They're lowering the water even further, so it's a bit of a boating hazard, and may cause us to alter our plans a little bit. I don't know. I don't mind.
Are you driving down or flying down, Pete?
I'm flying down.
Okay.
Shout out to Tim Roach, good friend of mine, former nation competitor, and fished out on the Bassmasters during the invitationals, qualified for the top 150 back in the day. But he's got a place down there, so Jake and I are going to go and hang out. There you go. Honestly, Rich, it's hard to leave. The bay is our local body of water is on fire, or it's on the edge of being on fire. Let's say it that way.
It's fishing definitely good. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, unfortunately, we didn't get to go Saturday or Sunday because of a small craft warning that was put on the Chesapeake Bay, which is a massive body of water. And just because there's a small craft warning down by the Bay Bridge and Route 50, we didn't get to go. So leave it at that. I respect the tournament directors and their decisions, but sometimes it is frustrating when,
Yeah, it's tough, and we see tournaments canceled on a forecast a lot. And, we went out, Jake and I went out fishing on that Saturday, and, it was a manageable win. But I understand there's insurance ramifications and problems from the tournament directors have to take into account. And, it's that time of year, man. The wind blows, you get these cold fronts coming through and complicating things, but it's getting ready to get real stable, and and we're looking forward to that. But Justin and Jocelyn, are you guys in the wings? Hey, there they are. There's our peeps. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Kyle was awesome. He's one of our favorites.
He was talking about his polygraph, and the entire time I kept thinking I would walk in and just start crying, and then they'd be like, "He's guilty," but I would just cry.
Guilty. That's funny. It's got to be nerve-wracking. I mean, like him going into the never having done it before, that first polygraph. I'd be nervous as heck too, man. Everything's hanging in the balance, and and our own Justin he just looks guilty right out of the gate, How would you do in a polygraph test, Justin? You think you could manage that?
Just eat some coffee and tell the truth, brother.
Tell the truth.
I think he'd be perfectly fine. He would just walk in and be like, "All right, let's do it."
Yep.
Not me.
Well, I did one once. It was on the and it was similar. They ask you baseline questions, and they try to capture the tone of your voice. Nowhere near as advanced as the one that Kyle had to sit through with all the.
So it's not your heart rate or anything?
It was, yeah. They had monitors on his fingers and around his chest, and
my heart rate would be going absolutely wild.
Right. Well, I think that's where they take the baseline, though.
Yeah, that'd be okay if your heart was racing right out of the gate, then that's your,
From the way he made it, the way Kyle made it seem, he made it seem like that the questions were pretty direct, and like that if you were gonna fail it, like you would have to be pretty much lying through your teeth about it. Like when you first think about when I first thought about these guys having to do a polygraph, I was like, man, as it pertains to fishing, like there's some questions that really they can really have a lot of different angles to them as far as how the questions are directed. And it's like, well, is this a trick question? How many different ways can I answer this? There's a lot to it, but it sounds like they, keep it more straight down the middle. But who knows? It's crazy.
Yeah, the one that I did on the phone was just pure voice inflection, and they made you just like they do the same thing. They make you tell a lie, and then they ask you a truth question, and they measure your voice. I'm sure it's nowhere near as reputable or dependable as getting hooked up, but
right.
But yeah, that's, I guess when you tell a lie, your voice automatically behaves differently.
There's an app for it on a phone, guaranteed. You can download a polygraph app. I think they actually used to use them in the Spro only opens out on the Chesapeake. You'd have to pass the iPhone polygraph app.
Yep. Well, that was cool talking to him. Great that he used his use of Humminbird 360 to do well in that tournament was very cool. We're excited to be partnered with Humminbird again this year. Jocelyn, looking forward to working with them.
Yes.
We're gonna be talking with one of the big cheeses at Humminbird this week.
We are. We're excited.
Yep. So we're excited. We're going to be doing some promotions with them. I know right now you can win a cash and rod just by actually two cash and rods, courtesy of Justin, by signing up for our newsletter. Go sign up. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, go do it. If you're a subscriber, you're already there. But go sign up, and we're giving away a couple of cash and fishing rods, right, Justin?
That's right, Pete. 2 cash and fishing rods and some Bass U apparel.
Nice.
Awesome. And welcome to you guys that signed up. This is a great time to get signed up for Bass University. Jocelyn, what do we got going on? What's our promotion going on right now?
It's a 6-month promotion, and you get a Bass University hat, face shield, just for signing up.
Excellent.
Perfect time for the face shield. With all the pollen that's out there, those face shields are coming in handy.
Yeah. The pollen was interesting, how many guys were talking about the adjustments necessary on your sonar when that pollen gets in the water. And that's going to be something that we're going to be facing more and more as weeks go on. But we got to get dialed in on that, and we will definitely be doing that. Justin, we got a subscriber of the week.
Sure do, Pete. Shout out to Michael here. Michael Wheeler, sub of the week. Chester County, got the little Bass U logo there, and he's rocking the hat.
Nice.
I love it. Love it. And like I said, I met a guy, and I didn't talk to you guys about him, but at Jake's Nation Youth High School event, a guy was coming. He actually was going to fish the lake, but he saw that the kids were going to have their tournament there, and he decided to just go to another lake and let the kids fish. I thought that was super cool. And he was just going on and on about Bass University and how it's helped him, and how he was just listening to some tutorials, on his way to the launch ramp that morning.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah, That's a great time. Especially, you know, I tell people, advise, like, you think it's going to be a lipless crankbait bite, man, just pop in one of the great lipless crankbait tutorials from the greatest anglers in the world and listen to that on the way to the ramp. It'll fill you with confidence, and it'll give you ideas maybe you didn't think about, or a color pattern, or a retrieve, or something that will inspire you and really help you catch a lot more fish. So listening to it on the way to the ramp or the night before is a great time to check it out. What else we got going on? We're going to be up with the Pure Fishing Group on Lake Champlain coming up in July. Looking forward to, or June.
Yep.
Looking forward to that. That's going to be on Lake Champlain. We got anything in the books right now for Bass University?
Outside of that, I believe you guys are doing some shooting on Thursday for some Bass U social content. Stay on the lookouts for that. We got a masterclass that we're releasing this week, as well as a seminar from Greg Hackney. The masterclass is a swim bait seminar, swim bait seminars with Freddie Boom Boom Rumbanis and Big Fish Bobby Lane. And this week's classroom seminar is with none other than Greg Hackattack Hackney on swimming a jig all times of the year. So definitely want to tune in for that one. Greg's a wealth of knowledge, and he lays out the goods. So stay tuned.
He really does. And I want to remind you guys, Tackle Warehouse is all over Bass University. So all of the seminars, if there's a bait or color that's talked about, we have made it super simple for you guys to be able to find the things you want quickly, and they're in stock. Go get them. And I just want to remind everybody that Tackle Warehouse is the store we're with, and you can go get all the bait you want. They're having a huge 35% off sale on a bunch of items right now. So go check that out and click on the Bass University links. You can, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on the website, we're trying to make it easy, because it can be complex to try to find the right color, the size, and the action that the guys are recommending. So we take all that guesswork out for you to get the good stuff.
That's guys, we're in the business here of helping people catch more fish, helping people who are watching catch more fish, our subscribers, our customers, our members, everybody. And look, there's a reason that framing hammer is a framing hammer. There's a reason a chainsaw is a chainsaw. What I'm getting at is that having the right tools for the job and what you're trying to accomplish on the water is a huge component of being successful. It's overlooked in a lot of cases, and it will absolutely, with 100% certainty, put more fish in the boat for you by having the right tools for the job. So when you're watching the seminars, when you see these tackle lists come out, don't skip over them. Make sure that that your stuff is dialed in to be able to accomplish what you're trying to do when you're doing a technique. It's important. It's not just us trying to sell you something. It is important for hooking, landing, and triggering strikes when you're out there on the water.
Which is why I'm getting the G-Power Gamakatsu hook.
Okay.
And I'm putting that exact hook in my arsenal because of the effectiveness of Kyle Welcher using it. But that exact tool for the job is having the right tool for the job is key. That's what I'm getting. But anyway, go check that out. We're going to be back next week with another episode of Bass University Live, and we'll announce all the guests. So look for Greg Hackney's seminar coming out, and as well as go back and check Kyle Welcher stuff. He's a really, really excellent teacher, and pre-spawn is here, so it's a great time to get studied up on it, and go check all that stuff out. Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Kyle, for hanging out with us today. We'll see everybody next week. Another episode of Bass University Live, everybody. Have a great day.